Hi, everyone. I wanted to share a tool with you as a part of Google Gemini called Deep Research, which is a great, obviously, research tool. And I want to share a use case for how I've been putting deep research into play. I hope that regardless of whether the use case I share is relevant for you or not, you at least get a sense of what deep research does and can apply it to what you do. So, just to quickly show you how to access the deep research tool, and then I will go through an example with you. I am logged into my Google Gemini account. You hover over here where the prompt is and you click on tools, and there is a section here for deep research, and you can see that it is going to activate deep research. If I wanted to turn that off and I didn't want to select that, I can simply click the X to turn it off. Let's take a look at an example. I want to start by providing some context about why I started using deep research in Gemini. It all started because I was getting these alerts from Burbio about state funding trackers. So essentially, what I have set up is anytime there is a change made into Burbio's database about state grants, it will send me an email, and it sends me those daily. So it kind of gives me a summary of if there is a change or a couple changes across the day, it will give me a summary. So I did receive one of those tracking alerts on July 2nd, and when I scrolled through, I saw that one of my states that I support is represented, and you can see it is Florida Pathways to Career Opportunities Grant. Thought that sounded relevant for what we do, so I logged into Burbio and I started looking at some of the information tied to this grant. And it turned out that this grant is all about supporting registered apprenticeships. So I wanted to take a look and figure out, are there registered apprenticeships in Florida that A, already have ZSpace, or B, don't have ZSpace, but what they're doing and the training that they're trying to provide might benefit by or be enhanced by what we do here. I wanted to identify what those organizations are, so that's where I decided to turn to Gemini Deep Research. Let's fast forward for a minute and take a look at how I use the information from the grant to identify apprenticeship training opportunities that we might be a good fit for in Florida. So, what I did is I pulled up Gemini. I pulled a PDF that I found from Burbio that just outlined what the grant is. So, it has some background information for Gemini to research. I'm going to go ahead and turn on my deep research tool. And then I gave it these instructions. So just for sake of time, I didn't want to type all this out, but you can see I just said I'm looking for institutions in Florida eligible for this grant. You can see I talked about eligible registered apprenticeship opportunities. And then I also highlighted the fact that because we're ZSpace, we want to focus on the following industries: agriculture, manufacturing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So not focusing on those apprenticeship opportunities where there's not a great alignment for us right now. And then I also told it how to output the results. So I said, please output the results in a table with this following information. And so all I need to do now is I'm just going to click the submit button. And the thing about deep research is it's not quite as instantaneous as a regular chat. Now, it's not going to take hours typically to run, but we're probably talking about a couple of minutes, maybe 5 minutes. What it tends to do first is it gives you its plan for doing this research. So it didn't actually do the research yet. It's telling me, hey, here's how I plan to do this research that you asked me to do. Do you want to go forward with this plan? So I can see its steps. I will say generally it does a pretty good job of going through these steps, putting together a plan. There are times where I've noticed, there's maybe something it doesn't really need to do because it's not really relevant to what I'm looking for, or maybe I just didn't give it a good explanation. You can edit the plan if needed. And so once I'm okay with its plan, we can hit start research. And now here's where it might take a couple of minutes to do the research. I have had times where what I was asking for was like incredibly specific, or it just wasn't able to gather the information that I was asking for whatever reason. And I have found that sometimes if I just slightly modify the prompt, it does a better job. Sometimes it's because the way that I've asked for the output to be presented is not something it can do. So just be aware of that. And it will tell you, hey, I wasn't able to complete this task. One of the cool things is it tells you it's thinking in real time. So it's saying, hey, I'm taking a moment to understand the grant eligibility. I'm identifying apprenticeships. Here are the websites that I'm researching as I do this research. And so let's fast forward here and to see the types of responses that it can provide. I'm just going to highlight here for a second. This is an example. It actually told me it's having a hard time with my request. And before I gave it a slightly new prompt, it told me what it was having trouble doing. So it said I'm having trouble finding past awardees of the grant. So I just said, can you do it again without giving me the past awardees of the grant? And so it did the research again and came up with a slightly new plan. And when it was done, it created this report for me that popped up. So let me show you what this looks like. So it gave me lots of information. It gave me a summary of the grant itself. It's telling me about the grant, like I said. It's telling me about registered apprenticeships in Florida. So it's giving me really a lot more information even than I asked for. But now here's really what I wanted to know. Can you give me the table of institutions that might be eligible for this grant? They're registered apprenticeships that are in alignment with what we offer. So it gave me that table that I asked for, told me where it was. And now I actually did this report 3 weeks ago. But one of the other cool things that was here 3 weeks ago, I'm not sure why it's not here anymore, but it gave me a link to that specific institution. So if I wanted to look up, hey, who's the contact at this particular institution, I could go to this link and it would take me to to their website so that I could try to find who should I reach out to if we're looking to partner. So it gave me all this great information. It even gave me a little bit of analysis here at the end. So it talked about, it kind of grouped here at the end and gave me a little bit more analysis about these specific programs, even though I didn't ask it to do any of this. I also have the ability, if I wanted to export this. So I could export this, for example, to Docs. So let me go ahead and just show you what that looks like. And so it's that same report, just now in Google Doc version. Okay. Now, what do I plan to do with this? Well, like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to comb through this list and try to identify what seems like it might be a good fit that we can really support strongly. Do we already have relationships with some of these institutions? And then I'm going to look at the links that are provided. Again, they were active a few weeks ago when I did this research. They're not showing up currently. But I'm going to look and see, hey, is there a good point of contact for this particular apprenticeship? To see if they're interested in potentially partnering on writing a grant and including zSpace directly in that grant. We reached out, I worked with Sheena, and we reached out directly to a few of these institutions, and we have had at least some initial interest. At least they're opening our emails and responding and asking us more questions about it. So we have had some success with this strategy. And so as we continue to move forward, I'm going to continue to refine my strategy and figure out if this is a viable option for us to find people that we might want to work with on some grant writing and writing zSpace directly into those grants. I know I mentioned earlier, obviously, looking for people to reach out to write grants with is not necessarily something that everybody in zSpace is going to need to do. But I hope that just seeing deep research in action, think about how that could apply to your everyday work. And anytime you need to do some research on, maybe it's a competitor or maybe it's something else that you need to research a little bit further. All of the time that this would have taken me to put together if I had gone through and tried to find all of these individual apprenticeships and looked for contact information and all of those things, think about how much time that saved me and how I was able to start reaching out immediately, literally within maybe 15 to 20 minutes of putting this all together. Thanks for watching.